Here's a shocking statement for you. Your competitor should never have superior marketing to you. Maybe they have it for a couple days, maybe for a few weeks, but there's no reason that they should have superior marketing, should be getting more clients than you, gaining market share from you if you have a superior offer. So I'm going to walk you through just a simple case study this week that I kind of came across of a business owner kind of complaining that he has an amazing offer, one of the best in the industry, but all of his competitors seem to have better marketing than him. So all of his clients tend to come to him last. And they're glad that they did because they find that he has the best offer, but they've gone through all of his competitors first, given them all of their money first, and been disappointed with them before coming to him. So think about all that lost money that people have put forward with other competitors and not found him in the process. So there should be no instances over the long term where your competitors are beating you out from a marketing perspective. I'm going to show you a process today, again, using a very simple case study in terms of how putting a process in place to make sure that you are at least keeping up with your competitors' marketing, what is working well with them and what isn't, and not just sticking your head in the sand and saying, like, hey, I'm just not as good of a marketer. Hopefully people find their way to me over time. You're just kind of leaving money on the table. So if it's the first time joining one of my lives, I'm Brian Czekanski, and I help coaches in particular, but also businesses in general that have a high ticket offer, 10x that high ticket offer without using any sales calls whatsoever. I've been a copywriter, a marketer, kind of put my marketing hat on today, kind of show you a process that I always use anytime I'm working with a company. You know, if I start with them for the first time, is kind of take a look is like, okay, who are those main competitors that you have out there? And really you should have a good idea of who you're competing against, who are your prospects checking out, who have your current clients started with, whatever it is. Like if you don't have a good idea of that, you're kind of sticking your head in the sand. I know a lot of business owners just try and create the best offer that they can and put out marketing and try to attract people. But you have to be aware of who your competitors are, what they are saying to your audience, because again, your audience is not only going to check out your offer, they're going to check out your, four or five, or Facebook is going to show them ads, YouTube's going to show them ads as they search. Even if they come across your offer first, they're going to get a bunch of ads from all your competitors. So if you have no idea what your competitors are doing or saying, or what approaches they have, how are they priced, all those kind of things are really key. And that's where you get into the situation where it's like, okay, my competitors are outperforming me because they have better marketing. Well, it's largely because you're kind of sticking your head in the sand and you don't have a process for keeping up with them and testing out new approaches that get your audience to your offer first and convert them really quickly. So that kind of ends today. Should never have that excuse ever again as we kind of institute the process that I'll walk through today, again, in a simple case study. And I'll kind of jump into it here. So again, the first thing that I do if I'm a copywriter or a marketer, or even if I'm taking a look at somebody's high ticket sales for the first time, I'm going to take a look at what those competitors look like. So um, it's not going to be the same industry that we're going to go into, but just to give you an example, like this is what it would look like. So this was going back. I had a personal development coach, very well-known coach in the industry. Kind of went through, and this is kind of what I put together. I took I created a competitor matrix. Kind of went through. It doesn't have to be every competitor that you have out there, but you should have a general sense of like, okay, like if I'm selling a product, especially in the high ticket space, or even if you're selling a course, okay, like who are those competitors out there who have similar type of products? Who is my target audience going to potentially consider going out there? And let's write them down. Like, again, it doesn't have to be on a spreadsheet, but I love Google Sheets, kind of putting it together. You can kind of see my columns here. So I listed out kind of the main competitors that I had, everybody from David Bayer to Brendan Burchard, Tony Robbins, all those kind of things. Like all those might not be a fit for my audience, but I'm getting a sense for like, okay, like what is everybody else saying? How are they pitching a similar type of product and going out there? So like I put down all the offer names, and then I went through. I pretended like I was a customer. I pretended like I was a potential lead, and I went through all of their funnels and figured out like, okay, like what offers do they have out there? What price points do they have? So you can see I went through their sales page and took a look at what is that big idea? What's that new type of idea that they're putting in front of that audience? What's that new opportunity that they're talking about? What's that unique problem that they're talking about? So in this space, everything around mindset. So in this one, it was unconscious inner conflict. Like, what do they call it? How do they explain it? What is working well? And the reason why this is really powerful is that your competitors are doing the research, they're doing the testing alongside you. So like there's no reason to ignore what they're doing because they're already showing you what is working and what isn't working. So if they've tested out something for a week and you see it drop off, or you can see that they're running ads to a webinar and they've been doing that for years and years and years, well, maybe that's a clue that it's working. So again, if they're pouring more money into it, if they've been doing it for a long time, that's a simple clue for you that okay, this is working for them. And there's certain characteristics of that that you not like. I'm not saying to copy and paste it, but to use generally, especially in marketing, use the structures, use the vehicles that we're talking about. And as I get into the example, I'll bring that to life a little bit more. But again, have a sense for like, what is that big idea? What's that new opportunity that they're putting in front of their audience? What are they calling it? How are they calling out a specific problem that your audience didn't know about before? Kind of like, what is that main issue that they didn't even realize was their problem? What's the unique mechanism? Like, what's their unique method for getting people results as we go through? You know, in this result, again, using David Bayer, he talked about something called neuro sculpting. So again, a pretty unique name to it. He's building curiosity around that. He built built a whole program around that. So again, thinking about your unique mechanism. And the great thing is that as you list out some of your key competitors, it might be 5 to 10 competitors. What you're going to see is some common characteristics, some common things as you go through the big idea and the unique problem, the unique mechanism, and the angle that they use and the appeal used. And I went through and put in the ad links. I put in the offer approach. So are they using a mini course? Are they using a webinar? Are using a masterclass? All that is really important because you'll get a sense for like certain audiences. Like, okay, maybe the webinar is the right approach. Maybe an ebook is the right approach. All those kind of things make a difference. So you might have the best content, but if it's not delivered in a way that your audience really appreciates, you're not going to do as well. And we'll get that into it in a little bit more. And then I went through their sales pages again. Like, what are those commonalities? So like at the end of the day, I don't want to go through and see these competitors. I really just want to see like, okay, what are those common things among my 5 to 10 competitors that they are using, not only in terms of like the vehicle that they're using, maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's a masterclass, maybe it's starting out with a low ticket course and selling that high ticket type of offering, getting a sense for like, what does that customer journey look like? What have they tested out? What seems to be working? What are those commonalities among those competitors? What seems to be working across my audience landscape? If I'm starting from scratch or just trying to improve my marketing altogether, like again, success leaves clues. Your competitors have already tested out for years and years and years. Maybe they've been in the industry a little bit longer than you. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they have a superior offer. Maybe they don't. But they're giving you clues in terms of what is working. And if you look across your competitor landscape, is something that you should really do. And again, take it from the customer's perspective. Take it from like, okay, like let me opt in. Let me take a look at their ads, and I'll do that in the example that I show you right now. Is like we'll start from the basic ad level. Like even if I'm not seeking out to get their product, like what does their ad look like in my potential news feed in Facebook or YouTube or whatever those things are, to get a sense for like what is that opening message, what are they pointing me to, and what's that final end result, like what's the price point at the end, what's the offer, all those kind of things. So like you in your business, if you're sitting there saying like, okay, like my competitors are kind of eating my lunch right now because my marketing is not up to snuff, like it's probably because you haven't done the work in terms of like what's working well and what isn't working well in terms of your competitors. So start with a simple spreadsheet in terms of listing out like 5 to 10 competitors and kind of go through their funnel and see what that customer journey looks like. And for their main offer that kind of lines up with your offer, okay, like what is their at the top of their sales page or the top of their webinar? Like what is that promise that they're putting out there? What's that unique mechanism? All those kind of things that I just talked about. Like what are those ingredients? And take a look at what are those similarities. And that gives you a sense of like, okay, like if I want to improve my marketing right now, like maybe I start to test out something similar in terms of unique mechanism or a big idea. Again, not copying and pasting it, but using it as inspiration. Your competitor's marketing should be kind of the ground floor for your testing that you're doing on a weekly basis and things like that. So the idea is that we're always establishing, we have kind of our established marketing, but we're always doing additional testing inspired by our competitors, coming up with new ideas. Each week we are testing against our controls to see if we can beat that existing control. So we have an ad control, we have a webinar control, like whatever it is in terms of your process, always testing out new ideas to see if you can beat those existing controls. What I call kind of split testing. Split testing is like, okay, like I have the marketing that's kind of like the baseline for me in terms of marketing. Like, Can I beat that existing control? Can we have two things working alongside of a thing? So I'll give you an example. Like one part of your audience will really enjoy watching a webinar or a video sales letter. And then you'll have another part of your audience that really likes to read, like a more of like an ebook or maybe a book in general, or just more reading type of things. Like I don't know what the split is within your audience, but it might be a 50-50 split between your audience liking to view things and not viewing those things. So like for your audience, you might have an ebook for one part of your audience. You might have a webinar that's one part of your audience to kind of serve those two parts of your audience along with that. You might have one that is working a little bit better at any given time. But again, as you test out new things, as you may condense down that ebook or try new things, or maybe it's a mix of kind of reading and video, can we test out those things? So like every single week, you should be doing those split tests. And what that will do is continue to increase your ideas and to get you over and above where your competitors are. If you're just kind of sitting with your head in the sand, not having a good idea of what your competitors are testing out, what is working with them, what is working for them, of course they're going to outperform you from a marketing perspective, because again, you just have no awareness of what is testing and what is working for them. That's just easy clues for you to do some additional testing in your next few weeks and months in terms of what works and doing it out there. So like again, if you have an offer in the market, in the example that I'll go through right now, let's go through. So the example I want to talk through, for this is just kind of a land flipping investment company. The kind of the inspiration for this video was the land flipping investment membership that the owner was a part of. Kind of mentioned in his video how everybody else seemed to go to other competitors and ultimately come back to him because he had the best type of offer. So again, it was kind of inspired by his comments in his latest YouTube video that made me take a look at this. Kind of like, again, there should be no reason that your marketers, like your competitors, are having superior marketing if you have the right process. So let's take an example. Again, he's not shown on here, but if I just search within YouTube and search for land flipping, let me just pick up two examples. So this is just at the top of kind of the list here. So again, I don't know, I don't know the land flipping business. I haven't done a ton of work in there, but I can kind of use YouTube as a way to kind of pull down some of those top competitors. So I can see here, Flipping Mastery TV. It's got a ton of different subscribers. I know that's Joe McCall's company. I have one right down here, Jack Bosch. I know his company is called Land Profit Generator. I know from a general sense that those are two top companies that are one of our main competitors for this business owner that I was talking about. So Land Academy is kind of the business owner that I was talking about here. So looking at Land Academy's top competitors, I assume like Joe McCall might be a little bit bigger of a competitor, I would assume, in terms of number of subscribers and knowing kind of his business a little bit more. So he might be a bigger competitor. So that's ultimately a good thing. So like again, if he's getting more people into that business, even though he might not have a superior offer, maybe he has better marketing. Let's take a look at his marketing. Let's see what's working well for him. And let's start to, again, take those structures and take those clues for what's working well for him and start testing it in our business. We can do the same thing looking at Jack Bosch's business as well. So let's jump into that a little bit more. Again, if the first thing that kind of stood out to me, if I come to Land Academy, if I go to landacademy.com, like this is kind of as I heard that comment from the Land Academy owner in terms of like, okay, like maybe we're not the best marketers. I kind of started with like, okay, let's take a look at the offer here. So like he's got a superior offer, but if I look at the pricing here, just keep this in mind. It's 2,700 in terms of what they're asking for, and then a 295 per month membership fee. So again, they've kind of ongoing membership where they provide coaching calls and things like that, and that's pretty common within the industry. But what kind of stood out is kind of that 295 part, because I know from looking at other competitors, if I look at Joe McCall's business, so on the next page here, if I go to this one here, you can see he's at 4,997. If I switch to Jack Bosch's business and kind of similar offer there, he's at 5,000. So the two key competitors that I picked out, again, they might not be the closest competitors, but I have a general sense of like, okay, they've got really strong companies. They might be bigger companies than Land Academy. They've got a lot of people coming to them. I know their marketing is working for them. So the competitors are at that 5K range in terms of just a single investment. So that kind of stood out to me in terms of, okay, everybody else is asking for a single investment and they're getting ongoing coaching. Again, they might not get coaching as long as Land Academy. That might be the one thing that kind of separates Land Academy is like you can have ongoing coaching as long as you're paying that monthly fee. But you can see from the competitor's perspective, especially if your audience is coming through and looking at this for the first time, like okay, like 5,000 versus 2,995, and it might take me a couple months. Like, who's going to be the cheaper route here? Like, am I going to ultimately spend 5K at Land Academy, or should I just what's the value set here? And as I dug a little bit deeper, you can see from Joe McCall's perspective, if I go back to this one, 4,997. If I actually go through his webinar, actually, he actually has a hugely discounted price if you actually go through the webinar. So you can see if I go back just to Land Academy in terms of this one, it's like 2,700. If I compare that to Joe McCall's eventual price, you're going to see that just in terms of like a no-brainer type of offer, just the comparison is pretty dramatic. So I'll show you that in just a second, but let's kind of go through again. Like what I would start with is so keep that in mind. So pricing, keep an idea of what your competitors are pricing at. How are they structuring their offer? Are they doing a one-time fee? Are they asking for an ongoing fee? In this instance, kind of the 295 per month is something that might be pushing people away in terms of like expectations. Like, okay, if I'm in this program and I've got to learn for 10 or 12 months, I might be spending more than 5K anyway. So like those other one-time one-time payments might seem in comparison a lot cheaper. And then if you actually go through Joe McCall's webinar and everything else, you'll realize that 2,700 just on its own is really expensive compared to his program. So we'll see that in just a second. So let's go through and just kind of show you the other part as well is like what are the approaches that your competitors are using. So another thing that stood out for me is Land Academy. They have a pretty sizable YouTube subscription subscriber base, but their main way of getting people in the door is this ebook. So again, thinking about like most people are coming to them, finding them on YouTube, and then you are asking them to read an ebook to get into your world. So again, if people love watching videos from Land Academy and that first step is an ebook, it might be a mismatch between their audience that loves watching videos. Maybe a webinar, maybe a masterclass is a little bit more appropriate. And again, this made a little bit more sense, especially as I went to, again, go back to Joe McCall's type of approach. So what is he starting with? Like you see in terms of like his most successful ads right here are, are a 3-hour masterclass that he's doing on a Saturday. And then you go a little bit further up and he's doing a webinar. So he's doing webinars, he's doing masterclasses on a Saturday, live masterclasses to get people enrolled. So there is a mismatch in terms of that. So that's another thing that kind of stood out to me. Joe McCall is using video. He's using masterclasses to get people in, that first step into their community. Land Academy is using that ebook. Is there a mismatch there, especially when most people are finding Land Academy by potentially viewing them on YouTube, typing in some of those search words on the YouTube search bar in terms of land flipping or land investing, all those kind of things. So that might be another potential hindrance. Again, Joe McCall is probably spending a little bit more in terms of his budget. He's just probably testing a little bit more. So again, let's take that as a clue. That's not to say that Land Academy might not have tested a webinar in the past. Maybe it's not working for them in that same level, and they started to decide to stop it. The ebook was just performing for them. But again, your competitors, if I look at Jack Bosch's business, I know he's probably running a webinar as well. So again, constantly maybe testing a different webinar, a different masterclass to get people in the door might be a better fit to close that gap between where their marketing is and where it could be. And then the final point is just kind of thinking about that webinar. So again, at the end of the webinar, one of the things that Joe McCall does is he says, like, since you've been at the end of this webinar, since you watched it all the way through, I'm going to instead of saying 5K, you can have it at discounted price at $14.97. So think about that $14.97. again, if we go back to Land Academy's price right here of 2,700 plus that 295 per month. Again, if I go back as a customer, like if you're going to start with an offer here, like maybe I join that 3-hour masterclass with Joe on a Saturday, I pay $7. Then I watch his webinar. I get to the end, it's $14.97. I can like I have a lot of trepidation about getting into land investing. I'm not sure if it's the right thing for me. Like, which one would you choose? Like sitting there as an audience member, like, would you choose the one that's 2,700 an ongoing monthly fee, or would you choose the one that's 1497, where you've kind of built some trust and relationship with Joe McCall by spending 3 hours with him? You got a great idea of what his process is, and then you spend another maybe hour on the webinar with him, getting a better sense and hearing some of his testimonials and all those kind of things. And the other part as well is like he says that if you actually go through his program, he's gonna refund this 1497. If you go all the way through his program, he's gonna give you a check at the end. So like, these are all the people that got a check back for whatever they spent on the program, a completion challenge check. So he is rewarding all those people that go through that program. And again, it didn't make a lot of sense to me as I watched that webinar. I was like, why is he getting people to go through this program and then giving their money back? It kind of goes to the offer of like, he's not in it to teach people how to get into land investing. He's got a software program. He knows his students are going to bring him land deals that he can potentially partner in as well. So like, that's another part of it as well. Like, think about Land Academy's offer, thinking about Joe McCall's offer. Joe is basically saying like, you need to put down a down payment. Once you complete my course and take specific actions, I'm going to give you your money back because I know you're going to be a long-term customer with me. You're going to bring me deals that I can partner with that are profitable for me. You're going to be part of my ongoing software. His software, costs something per month, and I think, he's really thinking about in the long term in terms of the lifetime customer value. He probably gets more money. He probably gets more than $14.97 in terms of those software costs. The revenue that he gets from that software that these people are using back. Maybe he's got I'm sure he's got like a mailer type of company as well, where he helps his students kind of send out direct mail, because that's part of his process as well. So he's got revenue streams that he's being able to take advantage of, but he's only giving the money back for those people that are taking action. So not only in terms of the webinar, but the people that go through the course as well. So like, again, it's really kind of like, that really stood out to me in terms of like, again, what is your competition doing? Again, go back to the business owners that talked about like, okay, I've got a great offer, but people are going to my competitors. You can kind of see why in this instance, kind of the offer is significantly cheaper, the risk is much lower for those competitors, and they're kind of playing a different game. So like, again, Land Academy also does have those companies that send out mailers. I'm sure they've got some kind of software that will help with that as well. And I'm sure those revenue streams might not be the same level of Joe McCall, but you can see if your competitors are playing a different game than you, and they're making it a lot easier for people to get in the door, take action, they're rewarding those people that are taking action. You can see how there can be a pretty dramatic gap between your marketing and where you are right now, even if you have a better offer, because they're just making it super easy for people to take action. And again, the other part might be is just your audience just appreciates watching video versus reading an ebook. If they found you on YouTube, think of them, they probably enjoy watching video a little bit more. So like, that's where the ebook might come into play and make a little bit more sense. So like, all those kind of things, again, a super simple example, but I walked you through in all those examples. Again, have a good sense of who your competitors are, what approaches are they taking. If they're taking a different approach than you, if they got a different price point than you, if they're just, again, take Joe McCall's example, if they're just playing a different game than you, then let's think of what we're doing here and change it up a little bit. And again, it's not to say that you have to completely change over your offer, but you should start testing out those different structures. So again, for Land Academy, probably should start testing out a webinar. They might want to do a 3-hour masterclass on a Saturday to get people ingrained in their technology. They might want to think about a completion bonus, for part of their membership, and think about maybe, if they don't already have that software or the revenue that is feeding through and getting the revenue that they want to versus their membership, maybe we want to kind of explore some of those things as well. So like, again, And thinking about those price points as well. What are those different things that we should test out? So like super simple things that they could test out in the next week. So if they were to test out a webinar, again, like say we're going to test out a new webinar for Land Academy, what we would do is take Joe McCall's structure. We're not going to copy and paste what he does, but take the structure of his webinar that we know is working. What is and I can tell you just from kind of laying it out, first thing that he talks about is kind of like talks about the opportunity of investing in land and why that's better than investing in a house or doing a fix and flip or any of those kind of things. So like starting with the opportunity, like giving a brief preview of what his process is all about, then goes right into objection handling and why this is gonna, like all those thoughts in their head of like why this isn't gonna work for them, then does a deeper dive in terms of his process, shares some testimonials, and then finally comes to the end at the very end and talks about like, okay, like this is normally 5K, but I'm gonna give you, because you are at the end, kind of a special bonus at the end, 1497. And again, if you complete this, if you get through all the price, if you take action, you go through my program and go through it all to the end and take action, like, hey, I'm gonna give you your money back. And here's all the people that have gotten their check back. We spent all this money to get that back into you. And he's giving you a preview along the way. It's like, as part of that webinar, like one of the key things that stood out is it was kind of like a DIY type of thing. Like if you want to get into land investing, here's all the key components. Like if you want to start from scratch and do it even without my help, it's so easy that a teenager could do it. So like that was kind of the big idea in terms of like my actual, like he has kind of teenage or younger kids. Like this is so easy, my younger kids can do it, and kind of laid out a simple framework if you're using like specific websites or even wasn't, even if you weren't using his software or his mailers, he gave you kind of the basic tenets of how you can be successful in land investing. Obviously, if you work with him, you're going to get faster, easier, and cheaper type of results and avoid some of those big mistakes. But he was going to give you pure value in terms of like, if you want to get into land investing right now and you don't want to work with me, here's how you would do it. So again, like that's how I would kind of think about like if I'm working for Land Academy, if they just hired me as the marketing consultant, like that's how I'd start to think about like, okay, like if we're just not up to snuff in terms of our marketing, that's kind of an easy way to start. Maybe it's a 3-hour masterclass this Saturday in terms of laying out our process for people for $5 or $7 to get them in the door, build that relationship with people, handle some Q&A, all those kind of things that might ring the register of getting more people into the membership. So again, plenty of key ideas that your competitors could look out there, and that should be really helpful as you go through. So if this was helpful, kind of the case study and kind of thinking about like, okay, where are your competitors at? How can you do some of the research? How can you kind of find those clues and find that success from them? Hit that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on a future live.